Okay, welcome back to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone back. Perhaps you had a nice full lunch and refreshed your body a bit. We're going to be sharing with you walking meditation this afternoon, helping you guys to understand this and then actually doing it as a session so that you guys can get practice with it. So it's only going to take me maybe 10 minutes at most, maybe 15 minutes to really teach it to you. And then we'll use the rest of the time to actually do it and then have a discussion afterwards to see what questions you guys have. So with walking meditation, it has the same goals as breathing mindfulness meditation. If you remember when we were talking about breathing mindfulness meditation yesterday, we were talking about how it trains your mind to let go and cultivate awareness of mind and concentration. Well, walking meditation does the exact same thing. You're just doing it in a different position and there's a different technique involved, but you're still observing the mind. You're focusing and noticing when the mind moves away, and then you're cutting off and letting go and bringing the mind back. You're just doing it through the eyes now instead of the breath, and you're doing it while walking. So it's very intentional walking, and you're cultivating that mindfulness or awareness of mind, and you're eliminating craving, desire, attachment, training the mind to let go. So you can do this walking meditation as a standalone session, just all by itself, start and end with walking meditation. You can do it prior to other forms of meditation. Like say you're planning to do seated or lying or standing, you could do a little bit of walking first and then switch to a seated or a lying or a standing meditation. You can do it that way. Or you can really do it at any time. Like there were times where I would sit down to meditate thinking I was going to meditate, and then 30 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes into the session, I would notice that the mind was overactive and I would switch and I would do walking meditation instead. So you don't have to just take one pose during your meditation and stick with it. You can change. So at any point in time, you can be doing walking meditation in all these different kinds of situations. What you're going to be doing instead of focusing on the breath is you're going to be focused through the eyes. You're going to fixate your mind on whatever it sees in front of you, about 1 meter to 3 feet in front of you. You just look straight down at the ground. And then anytime your mind moves off of that, you're going to cut that off and let it go and come back looking through your eyes. So you're going to be looking just 1 meter or 3 feet or right in front of you. In your hands and your arms, you can clasp them in the front by just lightly clasping the wrists. You can put them to the sides, or you can put them behind you and clasp them that way. What you're going to be doing is very intentional walking where you put your foot flat on the floor and then you transfer the weight. Flat, transfer the weight. Flat, transfer the weight. So it's very intentional walking. And we're going to be walking in a counterclockwise circle because this really helps you to keep your mind in the middle and actually actively train it. Oftentimes when people teach walking meditation, they teach you to walk back and forth in a line. But what you'll notice is it kind of breaks up your meditation. If you guys remember the analogy I used yesterday where you have the piece of wood and the steel rod and you grind it back and forth, initially it's going to be bouncing around a lot, but then you're going to get a nice groove. And then as you get that nice groove, if it bounces out, you'll know that and you'll be able to bring your mind back to that. And eventually you'll get a deep enough groove that your mind will just be focused and concentrated all the time. Well, when you go back and forth like that, you don't get a chance to create that groove. But when you go around in a circle or an oval, essentially what we're going to have, when you go around in an oval, you're going to be able to get your mind really deep into that groove where you're focused and concentrated. So I'm going to show you guys what this is and how to do it. I'll do a little bit of it here, but I just need to switch over the cameras a little bit so that the people online will be able to see us. Just 1 second. Okay. Test. Okay. Sweet. Okay. So normally I wouldn't have this mic in my hand and I would put my arms in front of me, just clasping at the wrist or to the side or behind me. You can do it however you like. You're going to look 1 meter in front of you or 3 feet, just staring down at the ground. Then you're going to put your foot flat in front of you and then you're going to transfer two intentional movements where there is a flat and then a transfer. Flat, transfer. Flat, transfer. Flat, transfer. Flat, transfer, flat transfer. And if you need to use that flat transfer for a period of time just to get you going, that's fine. You can do that. But ultimately, you would like to get rid of that because that's just replacing whatever thought you would have had with a flat transfer. It's kind of like we were talking about yesterday with the counting or with a mantra. It's not really training your mind to let go because you still have something going on in the mind. You would like to get the mind where it's still and quieted, where there isn't any thoughts necessarily. You will have thoughts, but you would like to get to the point where in between thoughts, there's quietness and stillness. So if you keep that flat transfer all the time, it doesn't allow your mind to fully let go. But you might need that just to get started. I'm going to use that to help you guys when we first get started to do the flat transfer, but then eventually you'd like to let it go. So I'll show you guys how this looks. I'll just kind of classroom a little bit. So if we do flat transfer to get started, it's going to be flat transfer, flat transfer, flat, flat transfer, flat transfer. But then eventually that's just going to go away and you can just do the meditation. Okay, so that's a little bit of the walking meditation. You guys have any questions at this point? Yeah, you have a question? Go for it.
What should we think about the things we see?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, you're just looking through the eyes, and anytime you see your mind wandering, you just bring it back to whatever you're looking through the eyes. And if you guys make a big enough circle, you're going to be seeing wood planks, and you're going to see carpet, you're going to see different patterns. This is all impermanence that your mind's going to have to deal with, right? So that as you're looking through the eyes and you're noticing all this change, you got to keep your mind focused. And then learning here in the city, you're going to hear sounds from outside, like sounds like there's some music or some cars going by. There was a jackhammer earlier. This is all impermanence that your mind's going to have to deal with because your mind doesn't like impermanence. So you're going to need to learn how to develop focus and concentration despite all this contact coming in through the eyes and the ears and so forth. And that's what the meditation is doing for you. It's training you to be focused, concentrated, helping you to have that awareness of mind and be completely comfortable and content in the present moment without longing and yearning for something else. Mm-hmm. You had a question? Could you use a mic?
We have to count 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, that wasn't part of the guidance. There's no counting needed.
Only walking slowly, about 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's kind of like a clock. If you remember the old time clocks that were like tick, tock, tick, tock, and it kind of puts you in a little bit of a trance. That's what this is doing, but it's doing it through the motion of the body. It's flat, transfer, flat, transfer, flat, transfer.
To be in every minute, right? When to feel it.
You're not trying to feel anything through your foot. That's not part of what you're doing. You're just focusing through the eyes.
Through the eyes.
Yeah, just very intentional walking.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Say Amen has a question.
Oh.
Thank you. Did the Buddha suggest only doing this if the mind is overactive? Or was it like, maybe 50-50? Or this is just, if your mind's overactive, do this. Otherwise, you would normally sit.
Yeah, so what we have in the Pali Canon is those 45 volumes of books that are this thick. This is the largest, most complete collection that we have of the teachings of the Buddha, but we don't have everything that he taught. So we have in the Pali Canon where he's referencing loving kindness meditation, for example, or walking meditation, but we don't see in the Pali Canon exactly what he did for loving kindness meditation, or exactly what he did for walking meditation, or why he chose to do it. All we have is that we know that he did it. So what you do is you study with someone who's done the work and has trained their mind, and if you can have confidence in the person that they're either enlightened or very close to it, then you know that whatever they're doing, then it's led to their mental state, and you would aspire to be able to acquire that same mental state. And now you can have confidence that whatever that person's teaching, it led to their mental state. So I would like to be able to acquire that mental state. So in the teachings of the Buddha, we can see that he taught loving kindness meditation. It's very clear, but we don't know what he actually taught in terms of the exact technique. But if you understand from the Pali Canon that loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness works to eliminate anger, hatred, and ill will, then if you're studying with a teacher and you can see that this person doesn't have any anger, doesn't have any frustration or irritation or annoyance, you've seen no signs of that whatsoever, then you know that whatever meditation they're doing for loving kindness meditation, it worked for them to be able to get to the elimination of anger, so it'll work for you too. So that's where that in the Pali Canon, some of these things that you asked, it's just not there, but I can tell you based on personal experience that this is how to use walking meditation. This is how to use loving kindness meditation, and the Buddha shares, why to use loving kindness meditation, but in the Pali Canon, it just doesn't say what he did. But during his life, of course, he taught that because people would have asked him those kinds of questions. It's just they either didn't capture it in the Pali Canon, or the remaining amount of the Pali Canon that we have is just not in there because we only have these 45 books, but we know he taught other things besides that. It's just not all in there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so would you guys like to try it? Give it a shot? Okay, so I'll help you guys get started with this. You guys have everything lined up perfectly because we're going to make a big circle, so you guys got all your stuff in the middle. Usually we have to put everything away, but you guys are actually already organized. So yeah, if we just make like a big oval on the outside of the classroom, we'll kind of walk around all these cushions and chairs. So just space yourself out to give yourself lots of space. Okay, so your feet should be at about shoulder width. You can look down at the floor about 1 meter in front of you or 3 feet in front of you. Remember to clasp your wrist either in front of you, or put your arms beside you, or clasp your wrist behind you. And now looking at the ground, just put your foot out in front of you. Don't transfer the weight yet. I'd like you to see these two distinct movements. Just put your foot out in front of you so you can feel that the floor is underneath of your foot. And now, once you've got that, that's the flat. Now do the transfer. Flat, transfer. Two distinct movements. Flat, transfer. Flat, flat, transfer, flat, transfer, flat, transfer, flat, transfer, flat, transfer, flat, transfer, flat. Guys do this where you just do the flat transfer. If you're walking a little bit fast, you might stay on the outside. If you're walking a little bit slower, on the inside. But it's up to you. There's no right or wrong way to do this. But if you do just kind of a nice pace, that's usually best. And you might use that flat transfer for a period of time, just to going around, but then eventually let that go and just focus through the eyes, 1 meter in front of you, and just allow the body to do the flat transfer by itself. Anytime the mind moves off whatever you're looking at through the eyes, cut that off and bring the mind back to whatever you're looking through with the eyes. Okay, if you guys would like to come into the classroom, we can have a little chat, a little discussion. So this was 20 minutes of walking meditation. I don't know how that felt for you. Sometimes people feel like it was, wow, that was really short. Other people were like, wow, that was really challenging. So what I'm going to do is just kind of open up to whatever questions you guys have about this walking meditation. But let me just share this with you first. Oftentimes when our mind is used to doing a particular thing, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's meditation or anything else, it gets so used to that the mind craves that permanence. And then when you try something new, like introducing a new meditation technique, the mind doesn't typically like it right at the beginning. It usually kind of pushes it aside. There are some times when people do it, walking meditation for the first time, you're like, oh my goodness, where has this been my whole life? But sometimes people are like, didn't really quite feel right, because their mind is maybe so used to doing seated or lying or standing or something else. So whatever your experience is, that's what your experience was. But I would like to see if you guys have any questions on it, because it's important that you practice with this. And in fact, if this didn't feel comfortable for you to do meditation this way, it's even more reason why to do it. Because by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind is completely comfortable and content no matter what you're doing. So if you were like, I really didn't like it, that's the mind having craving for permanence of something else. It wants something else. It can't be content in the present moment. And you won't overcome that by avoiding it. So you're going to need to put the mind in the situation where it doesn't want to be in. Because what the unenlightened mind is used to is that when you experience something uncomfortable, you tend to try to avoid it. This is aversion, where the mind tries to push it away and thinks that that's what's going to solve the problem. But when you're averse to something and you're pushing something away, you should actually put the mind in that situation, because that's what's going to train you to overcome whatever sensual desire, whatever craving, desire, attachment the mind's having that it's holding on to. It'll train your mind to let go of it. So for example, if you despise durian fruit, if you can't stand eating durian fruit and you think it's the worst thing ever and you never even want to be close to it, I would advise you to eat durian fruit. Where the mind's going to want to push it away, it's going to want to be as far away from that as possible, but instead you'll never overcome whatever that craving is by pushing it away. You're going to need to eat some durian fruit. You won't get to enlightenment as long as you despise and you're repulsed by durian fruit. So you probably have certain foods that you like and you kind of seek those out, and there are certain foods that you don't like and you kind of push those away. And that's the sensual desire. That's the craving, desire, attachment through the tongue. It's coming from the mind. The mind is having that longing, yearning for permanently agreeable contact through the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and then the mind itself. It wants this permanently agreeable contact. And food is a good example of this, but it can also happen with meditation too, where the mind craves a certain style of meditation. It has a certain desire. And now when you try something new, like walking meditation, it doesn't like it and it's repulsed by it, or maybe not quite that high, but it's just like, don't really like it. So if that's the situation you're in, that would be wise for you to do this more and more. And what you typically do is you start in an environment like this that is very controlled, where you're completely safe. You can do meditation here, or you can go to the main building of any of these temples. We refer to that as a sala, the main building or the main hall. You can go to these main halls and you can do walking meditation, and it's really nice and controlled. Then you would like to kind of increment that up. After you get comfortable with that, go to like the park in the southwest corner of Chiang Mai. There's a park and it has a walking trail. And if you do walking meditation there, now it's not in a controlled environment like a temple. You're going to have children running past you. You're going to have bike riders and joggers. You're going to have pigeons in front of you. You're going to have different impermanence that's going to be affecting the mind potentially. You're going to have sun or different sounds and things like this that are different than when you're in that controlled environment. So then once you do that several times, you get comfortable with that, then you take it to the next level, where you might do it out on the street, out on the sidewalks, where you're walking down the street. I used to do this many years ago when my wife, she used to own a yoga business inside the city, and I would sometimes go there on Friday night and kind of wait for her after work, and it'd be like 8 o'clock at night, and Friday night and there's, I'm just kind of sitting outside of her yoga place waiting for like an hour until she's done with her work. And I would just go off in the city and do some walking meditation. And sometimes as I was walking around, I would be passing by bars and there would be music coming out and there'd be smoke from the people smoking and you could smell the alcohol. You could hear all the laughter coming out. Sometimes there were tourists walking around that were bumping into me because they didn't know what I was doing. Sometimes I heard little children. They were like, "Mom, what's that guy in that white clothes doing? Is that a ghost? That looks like a ghost. Oh my goodness, he looks so crazy. He's just looking at the ground. What is he doing, Mommy?" Right? So you would hear this gossip and this slander, and you had to remain unaffected by it. It's just stay looking at the ground, and that would train your mind to not be affected by gossip and slander from other people. Right? This is helping you with personal existence view, which we talked about in this course. So you can increment your meditation up to where you're experiencing more and more impermanence. And this is very helpful for your mind. So when you guys were walking, I don't know if you guys heard, but there was some pretty loud music. It was shaking the pencil holder in my office, right? And I was like, wow, this is really good for them. I was thinking, man, this is great, right? If I could have created that, I probably would have created that for you guys because it's challenging your mind to have to deal with this impermanence coming through your ears. Right? So sometimes we think about meditating and going in this quiet, serene place where there's no sound and you're in the forest and all this kind of stuff. But there's sounds in the forest too, right? There's cicadas and different ruffling of the ground and stuff like this. So you're going to hear sounds. If you try to meditate in a sterile environment all the time, well, when you hear that music, you'll be thrown off, right? So actually teaching in the city like this is wonderful because you're going to get all this impermanence that's coming at you. And you would like to introduce that impermanence sometimes because your mind can get attached to meditating in the same place. If you're meditating in your bedroom all the time, well, I would suggest you move to the living room sometimes. And then when you get used to that, move outside. And then when you get used to that, go to a park. And when you get used to that, go to a temple, right? Kind of like move your mind around because you can get craving and clinging even in your meditation sessions. It can happen. Like you can have a favorite cushion that your mind is attached to and you don't want to meditate unless you have that or that special blanket or something like that. So you'd like to kind of mix this stuff up and expose your mind to impermanence. One of the things I sometimes share with students at this point, I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to independently verify that your mind craves permanence, but one of the things that I help students to be able to see, for those of you guys that have been here multiple days, is take a look at where you're sitting. Sometimes a student will sit in exactly the same spot every single day. And that's the mind trying to hold on to that particular thing. And now the mind is craving that permanence. And it only feels comfortable sitting in that one spot. And what you would like to do is wherever you see your mind craving permanence is introduce some impermanence. So if you're noticing that you tend to go to classrooms and places like this and you sit in the same spot every day, switch it around. Don't allow your mind to get that permanence. Give it some impermanence, and that's going to train it to let go and not to crave this permanence. One time I was in Bangkok and I was on a boat, and it was one of those commuter boats, like a big ferry with like 500 people on it. And, people were crowded in there. We were shoved in there. And there was a monk sitting on top of the engine compartment meditating. He had to deal with the rocking of the boat. He had to deal with the rumbling of the engine. It was like rumbling the engine compartment. He had to deal with the fumes of the diesel engine. He had to deal with the sound that was coming from the people who were on the boat kind of talking and stuff like this. So he had all this impermanence to deal with. So you can actually challenge the mind in these situations, and it's really helpful for you. Whereas if you meditate in exactly the same spot all the time, this isn't actually helpful for your mind because you need to introduce some impermanence and challenge your mind in these situations. I do recommend for the first 4 to 8 weeks though, meditating in the same place if you can. If you're like have a room, like a bedroom, you can meditate there just to kind of get your practice established. But then start moving your mind around in different locations. And for those of you guys that are traveling, that's perfect because as you travel, you're going to be moving your mind around in different places quite a bit. So anyway, I'll just stop here and see if you guys have any questions on anything you'd like to talk about with the walking meditation. Anything you guys would like to ask? Yeah. For those of you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like.
Yeah. Which ratio of each meditation would you recommend us to do? Like every day, saying that the standard is 3 times a day. Should the 3 be breathing mindfulness? Should we alternate with love and kindness?
When you first get started, you're usually doing breathing mindfulness meditation exclusively for like the first 4 weeks or so, even upwards of 6 or 8 weeks, just doing breathing mindfulness meditation, because that's what's getting your meditation practice established. After 4 to 8 weeks, you're still not mastering breathing mindfulness meditation, but you're more developed at that point. And that's a good time to bring in the loving kindness meditation. And then once you bring that in, it's best to do that one in the morning, but that's not to say you couldn't do it in the evening or the afternoon. It's just that in the morning, when you're doing loving kindness meditation, you kind of go out in your day with your mind filled up with loving kindness, because where the real transformation is happening is in your day-to-day interactions through your intentions, speech, and actions. So you would like to kind of have the most amount of loving kindness in your mind when you head out in the morning for your day, so that way you can practice through your intention, speech, and actions being loving and kind. And that's where the real transformation to your mind and your life is occurring. So if you're on a regular schedule, you might do loving kindness in the morning, breathing mindfulness in the evening, and then where you can get a breathing mindfulness meditation in the middle of the day. But, say you get a phone call at 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and you're noticing all this anger coming up, do a loving kindness meditation. You know that that's the antidote. The longer you allow your mind to dwell in that discontent feeling, the more it's going to stay wired that way. So you're trying to break that up as soon as possible. So whenever you're noticing anger arising in the mind, you'd like to knock that out right away. Don't allow your mind to stay wired that way. Because as long as you keep allowing your mind to experience the anger, it's going to keep experiencing it, or the sadness or the frustration or any of those other discontent feelings. So you'd like to break it up as soon as possible so that the mind doesn't stay wired that way. So loving kindness meditation is ideal for that. Whenever you notice the strong anger, hatred, ill will, but then there's lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even dislike. If you're noticing that, you would like to knock that out of the mind, and loving kindness meditation will do that. So if you have a kind of a standard practice like this, 2 to 3 times a day for 30 minutes, and the morning is loving kindness, the evening is breathing mindfulness, but you could definitely do loving kindness at different times too. You don't have to stick with that. You can introduce loving kindness meditation at other times too, based on your specific needs. Mm-hmm. All right, you guys are pretty quiet today. All right, so I think we're all done. You have a question? I see your question bubbling. You can get a microphone if you like.
The difference between the breathing meditation and the love and caring,
loving kindness.
Mm-hmm. So actually, it's not any real different in practicing, right?
It is different. It's completely different.
I mean, can you explain again? Because maybe...
Yeah, I haven't taught loving kindness meditation in this course yet, because this is a foundational course. Yeah,
talking about...
This is a foundational course, so it gets you started with breathing mindfulness. In the Harmony and Relationships course, which is starting about 10 days, 12 days from now, that's where I teach you the loving kindness.
Okay, so when...
Or in the group learning program, the one I teach each Sunday and Wednesday, I teach it in there. I teach loving kindness meditation. So if you come next Wednesday, a week from today, I'll be doing loving kindness meditation with students. Or that course that's starting about 12 days from now, I do it in there too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we have classes Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Those are our regular classes. the Sunday and Wednesday is our group learning program. And what we do in that program is each Sunday I go chapter by chapter in this book. And then on Wednesdays, I teach meditation and open up to questions that you guys have. On Saturdays, I do the Pali Canon and English study group, where I go through volumes 2 through 13, the entire book series. In the first program, the group learning program takes 7 months program, where the Pali Canon and English study group's about a year and a half. Then I have various courses and retreats at different times during the month and throughout the year. So right now, this Monday through Friday here is for the foundation in the Path to Enlightenment course. Saturday will be the Pali Canon and English study group. Sunday will be the group learning program. Next Wednesday will be the group learning program. So there's different groups of people that come together at different times. But someone who's in town like you might just come every single day based on the schedule over there. Where there's some days I'm not teaching, but you can see it on the schedule. So each day there'll be different things that I'm teaching, depending on what the particular program is. Yeah, each class I'm going to start with meditation, and then there'll typically be some talk afterwards. All right. So I think that's everything. I don't see anything online either. So what I'm going to do then is just end class by thanking all of you guys. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and develop. Tomorrow, we're going to be starting off at 9 a.m. with meditation. Then I'm going to teach you what is Gamma and how does it affect me. This is where we're going to go in and talk about this natural law directly. I'm going to teach you 4 different types of Gamma, and I'm going to teach you how to extinguish your unwholesome Gamma. Then we're going to take our mid-morning break, and when we come back, I'm going to teach you what is merit and how to get continued support on the path to enlightenment. We're going to take our lunch break, and then when we come back, we have an activity in the afternoon, and we'll talk about the field trip too. The field trip to the temples on Friday. I'll explain that to you on Thursday afternoon as well. So that's what our plan is for tomorrow. So enjoy your evening, enjoy whatever you decide to do, and perhaps I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay? Take care. Sawadee krap.